Amid the austere shadows of ancient Sparta, a peculiar rite of passage unfolded, one that seasoned flesh and spirit alike. By flickering firelight, Spartan boys, mere 7-year-olds, were drawn from the embrace of their homes to embark on the agoge, a relentless martial grindstone where hunger sharpened survival instincts. In the chill of pre-dawn marches and the sulphurous tang of forge fires, stealing became both an art and a necessity. Bread lifted by nimble fingers, an egg filched under moonless skies, these acts of thievery were not sins but teachings. Here, silence was as golden as the grain they snatched, and cunning as crucial as the spear they'd one day wield. Welcome to a world where theft forged warriors and scarcity shaped legend. Imagine yourself in ancient Sparta, where the air is thick with the scent of earth and sweat, and the sun sets over a landscape echoing with tales of valour. At the age of 7, Spartan boys left the embrace of their homes to enter the agoge, the state's formidable military training ground. This transition from familial warmth to the stone-clad barracks was not just physical, but deeply emotional, marking their entry into a world where individuality was sacrificed for the strength of the state. Within those austere walls, overseen by stern figures, young boys were moulded into the warriors of Sparta. These boys, now possessions of Sparta rather than cherished children, quickly learned that the path to becoming a warrior was paved with endurance and obedience. Every moment in the agoge served as a stepping stone in transforming raw youth into battle-ready men. Their upbringing was devoid of familial affection, but rich in discipline, where silence became not only golden but mandatory. Conversations were rare, words chosen sparingly. This enforced silence, cultivating the keen power to listen and observe, skills necessary for survival in the chaos of war. Living in this environment meant embracing hunger as a constant companion. Meals were far from plentiful, with thin broths and hard bread serving more as a lesson in endurance than nourishment. Hunger, deliberately fueled by the state, was an educational tool, instilling self-reliance and cunning. By surviving on scraps, these boys internalised that life was a battleground, where comfort was the enemy of vigilance. They learned the art of stealing food, not as a crime but as a practice of stealth and ingenuity, honing skills that would serve them well in warfare. This deprivation was more than strategy. It was a philosophy that a relentlessly hungry warrior was always prepared. In the barracks, camaraderie replaced family ties. Bonds were forged in silence, where understanding passed through simple gestures and shared glances, creating a non-verbal language vital for the battlefield. Through communal hardship, these boys found brotherhood, a kinship born from mutual struggles rather than shared blood. This silent unity prepared them for battle's cacophony, ensuring they moved and fought as a single, cohesive entity. Discipline, more than words of instruction, was a way of life meticulously embedded in every mundane task and harrowing trial. The agoge was a relentless trainer, shaping resilience and reliability into each young Spartan. Boys bore the burdens placed upon them with stoic resolve, learning that pain, a frequent visitor, was merely an obstacle on the path to greatness. Through these trials they discovered inner strength and pushed beyond limits, conditioning themselves physically and mentally for the unyielding demands of Spartan life. Loyalty to the state was paramount, overshadowing any allegiance to family or personal ambition. Obedience became second nature, an unquestioning response crafted by years of training. The boys absorbed that their identity was owed entirely to Sparta, enforcing a collective identity essential for the state's prosperity. Personal desires faded before the duty they bore to Sparta, embraced as a personal creed rather than a forced obligation. The grand stone barracks, devoid of indulgences, stood as a testament to Spartan austerity. Here, material desires were regarded as distractions, threatening to corrupt the disciplined Spartan spirit. The boys learned satisfaction in necessity, viewing luxuries not as joys but distractions from their greater purpose. This austere life, stripped of comforts, crafted warriors who looked to the battlefield for glory, not to worldly possessions. Their understanding of wealth transcended materialism, valuing honour and commitment above all. The barracks was the crucible in which boys were continuously refined, an alchemical process of youth transforming into steely warriors. Each day, a lesson, each experience shaping their future. The mentorship of older comrades guided this transformation, lessons conveyed through action rather than instruction. As they matured, the barracks remained a forge, preparing them to step confidently into the Spartan phalanx. For those who endured, the agoge was not merely a rite of passage, but a lifelong mark of honour. It influenced every aspect of their lives, from decisions to their very behaviour, etching a blueprint of resilience and loyalty that remained unshakable. This rigorous education prepared them not only for battle, but for the wider tapestry of Spartan citizenship. The fearsome warriors emerged, armed with the knowledge that their lives were perpetual struggles for honour and survival. As they left the confines of the agoge and stepped into broader society, these young men carried with them a legacy shaped by pain and hunger, silence and discipline. The camaraderie and resilience forged in their early years fortified not just individuals, but Sparta itself, ensuring the city-state's ideals lived on through them. With their hearts hardened by endurance and allegiance, the agoge shaped boys into warriors, echoing its values as they marched into history. In the Spartan agoge, simplicity and scarcity weren't accidental. They were tactics woven into the very fabric of a grim curriculum. Picture it: young boys seated in dim halls, a thin porridge known as black broth streaming under their noses, alongside hard bread that echoed with every bite. The air hung with the earthy scent of simmered broth and youthful whispers stifled by disciplined silence. This austere meal plan was more than ritual. It was a test, a deliberate construct to school future warriors in the art of endurance. Spartan leaders believed a soldier must be moulded to endure deprivation, nurture frugality, and summon self-reliance. These were not just acts of survival, but foundations for military success in war-torn lands. This scarcity was strategic, an exercise in both physical and psychological endurance. Imagine the tension as each Spartan boy resisted the primal urge to reach for more while others feasted. They were learning restraint, not just with food but with impulses and desires. Hunger became a medium of education, teaching patience and the notion that one's needs were secondary to the community's strength. It embedded a philosophy that survival was a test of will, a lesson that would linger in their hearts long after they left the agoge. Beyond the physical pangs, the constant state of yearning forged their minds into tools of resilience. A young Spartan faced hunger daily, preparing them for the harsh sieges and sporadic famines that often punctuated ancient life. They learned early on that hunger should not dictate actions, an understanding crucial for warriors who might find meals rare. This practice in restraint was essential, laying mental groundwork for the grit required in long campaigns and desperate battles. The sparse meals offered more than sustenance. They mirrored the philosophy of Spartan life: substance over style, utility over extravagance. Even as they matured, Spartan warriors adhered to this restraint. This shared frugality was a culinary culture that spoke to their broader aesthetic of minimalism, an anthem of Spartan society's relentless pursuit of efficiency. There was an unexpected bounty in their lack, a sharpening of senses that turned the ordinary into an exercise in resourcefulness. With hunger as an ever-present companion, creativity blossomed among the Spartan boys. They were taught to see opportunity where others saw scarcity, to turn the landscape into a grocery aisle of hidden gems. Foraging for wild herbs, fruits, or small game honed their instincts, the world outside the barracks serving as their classroom. Each outing was a lesson in adaptability, teaching them to thrive on slim pickings and navigate terrains with the surreptitious grace of a thief in the night. Self-sufficiency, another tenet of their learning, was sculpted into their very bones by this enforced deprivation. In the agoge, a boy learned to barter, to trade small favours and scraps, experiences that taught quick thinking and strategic planning. Confronted with adversity, Spartans learned not to flinch or falter, embracing a philosophy where every obstacle was a puzzle begging to be solved. Hunger taught them solidarity, equalising the boys regardless of their heritage. Rank and privilege dissolved under the shared tyranny of an empty belly. Boys from diverse backgrounds stood shoulder to shoulder, bound by the common challenge of endurance, their hunger kindling camaraderie stronger than any shared luxury could. Here lay the roots of a Spartan soldier's unmatched loyalty, a bond fortified when faced with shared challenges. The constant presence of hunger prepared these future warriors for the dire situations of war. Sieges and the lean times that came with distant campaigns. To outsiders, the composure of Spartans in the face of starvation appeared extraordinary, but to Spartans it was standard practice. No soldier would ever be bewildered by a lack of resources, having faced it all during those formative years of training. Discipline, intertwined with scarcity, stood as a pillar of Spartan identity. Every growl of hunger in the agoge emphasized lessons in control, needed both on the battlefield and in the silent halls of their homes. They learned that personal discomfort served a purpose within a larger narrative, one of collective strength and loyalty to Spartan tradition. Hunger was not just a tool for endurance, but a narrative thread binding them to their illustrious past. Wrapped around these stark lessons lay rituals, rites of passage marking their evolution from boys to warriors. Participation in these rituals was a testament to their endurance, demonstrating that what started as physical trials morphed seamlessly into matters of honour and spiritual belonging. Through these practices, young Spartans glimpsed their roles as the next caretakers of a proud legacy. Hunger was not merely a trial, but a dramaturgy of tradition, where every denial of comfort brought them closer to their warrior ancestors. Ultimately, through hunger, these young Spartans were sculpted into defenders of tradition, warriors steeled by deprivation and discipline. The lessons learned through the agoge of survival, strategy, and shared struggle carried them beyond the barracks onto battlefields. Each Spartan emerged not as a mere soldier, but as a living embodiment of a culture that saw starvation not as a weakness to be hidden, but as a discipline-twined strength to be celebrated. In the harsh, unyielding world of Sparta, theft was not seen as a sin, but an essential part of a warrior's education. Growing up within the agoge, young Spartans were thrust into a relentless pursuit where cunning and courage met survival. Theft for them was a trial by necessity, a step into a world where every decision held weight, reflecting the ironic blend of necessity and virtue in their training. While other societies might have considered such acts immoral, Spartans found beauty in the cleverness of youth who could snatch sustenance in silence. The Spartan ethos was clear. Survival demanded more than mere physical prowess. It required sharp wits and the ability to navigate the intricate dance of scarcity. Instructors, weathered by their own history of battle, impressed upon these boys that strategic subterfuge was often more decisive than brute strength. Teaching these lessons through theft ensured that Spartan youths grew into warriors accustomed to the unpredictability and ruthlessness of war. Caught stealing, they faced severe penalties, not to punish deceit but to underscore incompetence. Crafty success was celebrated. Failure led only to hunger and harsh discipline, reinforcing resilience and determination. The elegance of theft lay in its demand for intelligence, subtlety, and nerve, a trifecta that Spartans believed crucial for future success on the battlefield. The agoge turned real-life scenarios into tangible lessons, moulding youths into soldiers capable of outwitting any foe. The ability to exploit opportunity amidst chaos was vital, as each stolen piece of bread was more than just food. It was a testament to the boy's potential, an early mark of his prowess as a future hoplite. Within the Spartan framework, the distinction between survival and honour was intriguingly blurred. The line between right and wrong was drawn not by moral grounds but by success or failure. For Spartans, theft mirrored guerrilla tactics, carrying a profound parallel to actual warfare strategies. The stealth required to swipe a morsel from under a vigilant gaze easily translated to infiltrating enemy lines. In battle, they relied on surprise and swift assaults, tactics learned under the pale moonlight while raiding camps or snatching fruits from unsuspecting farmers. To the outside world, this Spartan anomaly puzzled and fascinated. Philosophers like Xenophon acknowledged the brilliance behind Spartan resilience, while Plato questioned the harshness of such methods. The punishment for failing at theft was sharp and public. A boy caught in the act was flogged, in a society where pain wasn't meant to shame but to instruct, urging youth towards introspection and reinforcing their commitment to Spartan virtues. Enduring the sting of discipline taught them a poignant lesson. In Sparta, the harsh hand of punishment was not an expression of cruelty, but of a society forging its future warriors. It instilled in them that strength arose from overcoming adversity, crafting their characters into paragons of endurance and grit. Tales of daring feats performed by these Spartan youths became the whispers of legend passed through barracks and campfires, nurturing a culture of ingenuity. A favourite story told of a boy who managed to prize away a lamb from underneath a watchful guard's eyes, a feat that spoke volumes about his potential as a Spartan warrior. Stories like these were not mere tales but blueprints for future generations, inspiring them to emulate forgotten names of cleverness and audacity. As these boys matured through the agoge's demanding trials, they transitioned seamlessly from youthful mischief to experienced warriors. Theft was more than a game. It was a crucible that honed their strategic insight, anticipation, and restraint. These lessons armed them with the skills necessary to navigate the shadows of warfare, turning adolescent transgressions into adult triumphs on the battlefield. Once out of the agoge, They emerged not merely as men but as physical embodiments of Spartan ideals, immune to the frivolities that might tempt a lesser mind. The cultural dichotomy of Spartan theft captivated observers from other city-states. To some, Sparta's seeming inversion of virtue and vice was both admired and envied, while to others, like the Athenians, it appeared as a curious spectacle of muscular discipline over moral rigidity. Nevertheless, the image of Sparta held firm, a society unbothered by external judgment, rooted deeply in its conviction of virtues honed in shadows. Even as time changes, the legacy of Spartan methodology echoes, a peculiar blend of necessary vice and disciplined force. Today, the Spartan ideal captivates, with its ancient insights surviving in whispers through centuries. It is a curious reminder of an age where the art of the steel was entwined with tradition, a strategy woven into the very fabric of Spartan life, creating warriors through trials that never quite faded into antiquity. In ancient Sparta, the agoge was a crucible where boys were forged into warriors through relentless discipline and the sting of pain. From the start, Spartan youth were conditioned to view hardship not merely as a fixture of life, but as a challenge to embrace. It was a society that valued endurance, resilience, and stoicism over comfort, believing that suffering was the forge through which boys would transform into indomitable men. Punishment here was not rooted in malice, but was instead a calculated method to instill lessons that would last a lifetime. If a boy was caught stealing, he faced public flogging. This spectacle wasn't meant to humiliate but to reinforce that failure, especially publicly, was anathema to the Spartan ethos. The sting of the whip served multifaceted purposes within Spartan culture. It was a practical measure to harden bodies for the ruthless realities they would face in battle. Psychologically, it ingrained the profound understanding of consequences, teaching the price of failure in a very real sense. And philosophically, it aligned with the broader societal rejection of weakness, the lash of punishment, the public shame, and the reproach in the eyes of mentors left an indelible mark. Each flogging was a memory etched into their minds, a tactile reminder of the societal norms they had pledged to uphold. Yet, the transformation lay in turning pain into resolve, receiving the lashes as lessons, letting wounds heal into enduring strength. In this way, Spartan punishment surpassed immediate function, becoming a pivotal aspect of Spartan identity. One tale that captures this brutal pedagogy is that of the Spartan boy and the fox. Legend tells of a boy who stole a fox and hid it beneath his cloak. When confronted, he dared not reveal his theft, enduring the animal's painful gnawing until death. To an outsider, this might seem grim, but within Spartan culture, it symbolised the zenith of Spartan valour, a testament to silence and endurance, even unto death. It posed the dilemma of how much an individual should sacrifice for the greater good, a constant quandary in a society forever on the brink of war. The boy's silence was a strong testament to discretion, a virtue vital on a battlefield where any noise could lead to doom. This haunting narrative served as a blueprint for courage and discipline, a poignant illustration of extremities to ensure the youth embodied the communal spirit that defined Spartan legend. Public flogging was a communal event, a rite of passage not hidden behind doors, but shared with the community. It affirmed that the fault lay not just with the individual, but impacted the collective. Witnessing these acts, boys learned the rigid boundaries of acceptable behaviour. The blood and cries of their peers served as unmistakable deterrents. Far beyond discouraging theft or disobedience, These public acts aimed to instill solidarity among the boys. Witnessing such punishment meant internalizing the reality that they were all part of a larger mission, producing warriors to guard their homeland. This act of shared suffering linked each boy to Spartan society, reinforcing the collective fate they were to uphold. In Sparta, pain wasn't simply to be avoided. It was a teacher, a tool for learning and personal growth beyond the physical realm. Spartans became intimately acquainted with their own limits and mastered the art of self-control. Pain was the crucible where inner fear was confronted and conquered, an adversary both on the training ground and the battlefield. Beyond mere toughness, flogging taught restraint, control over instinctual reactions, a skill crucial in battle where panic could lead to death. Spartans internalized discipline and believed there was glory in triumph over one's own instincts and emotions, fostering character capable of withstanding further trials in adulthood. Fear was acknowledged not as an overwhelming force, but as a persistent companion. Through rigorous training, Spartans learned to master fear, using it as a motivator rather than letting it become a deterrent. Living shackled by fear stood opposed to the Spartan ideal of freedom through perseverance. Punishments conveyed dual lessons. Pain feared was pain unabated, but when lessons were heeded, it became an instrument of strength. By facing punishment, Spartans learned courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the poised acceptance of it. For those who completed the agoge, the scars earned were symbols of their resilience and validation of their readiness for warrior life. Each lash was a testament to their strength and commitment to the Spartan ideal. Survival of prison-like conditions transformed them into men respected in Spartan assemblies, weaving their narratives into the society's fabric. Spartan resilience then became synonymous with survival against life's adversities, each trial honing their character until resilience became second nature. Amidst this harshness, Spartans found a unique balance where each transition from pain to strength cultivated a tempered confidence necessary for survival. The Spartan legacy, punctuated by lessons absorbed from punishment, surpassed their lives, enduring through history as paragons of disciplined society. Though Spartan methods are questioned today, their emphasis on resilience and self-mastery remains curiously relevant, with lessons applicable to modern challenges of inner turmoil and perseverance. Their ethos illuminates an enduring truth: progress rarely emerges without struggle, and resilience arises not from the absence of adversity, but from thriving despite it, a legacy ingrained within the fabric of human history. Imagine a world where the line between a thief's nimble fingers and a soldier's steady gaze becomes blurred, where the lessons learned from pilfering a loaf of bread by starlight laid the groundwork for surviving battlefields drenched in chaos and blood. In the Spartan agoge, the art of stealthy theft was no mere survival tactic, it was a rehearsal for war. At the core was a Spartan philosophy intertwining survival skills with military prowess, where stealing was not about dishonest gain but cultivating the strategist's mind. The very act of stealing honed a Spartan's agility, teaching them to move with the surreptitious grace of a shadow, and this skill was key on the battlefield. In a world where honesty amongst comrades was imperative, it's ironical that honesty in everyday life was sharpened by acts of deception and cunning theft. Every hidden venture for food was more than just a test of nerves. It was a metaphor for mastering the unpredictable nature of war. Preparing for the unseen and the unknown was more than a philosophical exercise. It was a necessary drill. The battlefield was a tapestry of chaos, where quick thinking and adaptability were as valuable as a sharp blade. Here, stealing food provided unexpected career training. The neural pathways formed by these ventures, cementing instinctual, swift responses, were mirrored in soldiering scenarios where lives depended on split-second decisions. A silent footfall could spell the difference between survival and a hero's shrieking demise. For the budding Spartan warrior, mastering the art of silence during these clandestine food heists turned young Spartans into paradigms of quietude. It became second nature, an innate silence that ensured their success both in pre-battle raids and grand conflicts. The same principles applied both in sneaking past a sleeping cook and in moving silently through enemy lines, effectively arranging ambushes or stealthy retreats. Layered upon this foundation was the need for tactical brilliance, the ability to act with immediacy under pressure, where the heart's pounding drive didn't cloud clarity, but rather distilled it. Critical thinking and the capacity to make rapid decisions during theft became exercises of stress management. On chaotic fields where hesitation was lethal, Spartans thrived, turning adrenaline into their ally rather than their enemy. Yet acquiring even the basics of bread or cheese was an art in itself, demanding deft hands and sharp eyes. The physical exigencies of theft, quick hands, keen eyes, translated famously into wielding a spear or shield. Battlefields became dance floors where Spartans, fine-tuned over years of practice, wove around their foes with skill comparable to gods gambling on Olympus. While theft sounds such an unlikely curriculum, it framed an ethical network within Spartan youth. They were taught to discern survival necessity from cruelty's avenue. Stealing was not an abyss into moral decay, but rather a path teaching discernment and practicality, ensuring they were equipped to make hard yet rational wartime judgments. This unusual moral training bordered their persona with psychological resilience and tactical efficiency necessary in the terrifying theatre of war. Harsh disciplinary actions, a constant companion since childhood, further toughened their mental core. Facing the consequences regularly bruised the young Spartans not physically alone. It jeweled their psyche, enabling these young men to withstand horrific elements of men-at-arms struggles. This deep-seated fearlessness rooted in experience made them not just warriors, but battle-hardened sentinels. In their path to becoming Spartan hoplites, camaraderie harvested from shared misdemeanours flourished into an unbreakable social fabric. These youthful raids demanded not just single-handed bravery but coordination and trust, a battalion's bedrock. The collective thieving missions fostered an abiding unity, the strength of which bore onto battles where the phalanx's very integrity hinged on such mutual dependence and understanding. This thievery did not just shape individuals but echoed across Sparta's broader military strategy and doctrine, emphasising cleverness, stealth, and surprise over reliance on brawn. While the outside world viewed this tactic skeptically, the outcomes spoke volumes. The Spartan model showed that sometimes the greatest strength came from what was unseen, a strategy to outwit rather than outmuscle the foe. As the fires of the past flicker gently in recollection, it is apparent how theft sculpted Spartan warriors into formidable adversaries. Spartan warriors were not just masters of their own fears, but connoisseurs of their opponent's dread, all from the fruit of that once small condemned seed of theft. These early lessons forged a distinctive military ethos, where thieving morphs into a virtue, and awkward adolescence into elegant martial bravery, leaving a legacy as stark and as intriguing as shadows cast by ancient armour. These stories from a bygone era leave us pondering how much resonance these gritty lessons from antiquity hold in our modern quests for survival and strategy. In the quiet, moonlit nights of ancient Sparta, certain young men were moulded into shadows, sculpted not by birthright, but by their wits and endurance. At the threshold of adulthood, about 18 years of age, these Spartan youths faced a trial that intertwined their destinies with the enigmatic Crypteia. This group of young men did not merely evolve from the agoge, they underwent a metamorphosis. Surpassing the ordinary, they were chosen for their mastery of silence. The same silence that was once celebrated when a boy let a fox gnaw at his side without a sound. Joining the Crypteia was both an honour and an omen, marking the chosen as guardians of Sparta's austere order. By day they were indistinct among their peers. By night they were whispers on the wind. Their existence, a tapestry of stealth and strategy, was a living testament to survival and secrecy seared into them from a young age. As they prowled the countryside, their purpose was cryptic yet formidable, safeguarding Sparta's supremacy through the shroud of night. The Crypteia were practically invisible phantoms, trained to glide through the shadows, managing to strike swift and silent, a testament to Sparta's belief that sometimes the greatest battles are fought without witness or sound. Destined to live a paradoxical life, the Crypteia's members balanced between their duties as protectors and their inherent nature as predators. They wove themselves into the fabric of Spartan life, a society where military aptitude was stitched into its very seams. These young operatives personified this dichotomy, tasked with watching over the helots, the subjugated hands that fed Spartan society. In this world of shadowed dominance, the Crypteia's nocturnal excursions were acts of carefully crafted terror. With each operation, they reminded the helots of their enforced place, unfurling fear as a suffocating security blanket over any smouldering insurrections before they could ignite. But for these nocturnal operators, acts of calculated intimidation were more than mere brute thuggery. It was holistic mastery, transforming survival skills into a tactical art form. From the formative years within the agoge, they had developed an uncanny knack for living off the land. Stealthy procurement of sustenance was a far cry from simple theft. Each act honed skills vital for mastering awareness of their treacherous surroundings. Resourcefulness became their currency, their art of survival, an unending affirmation of their rigorous education transformed into second nature. The Crypteia held the helots in thrall, not merely as potential rebels, but as pawns in a broader game of control. Their leadership orchestrated suppression with precision, embodying fear as both a cloak and dagger. The oppression they enacted was a grim dance of shadows. Helots everywhere under scrutiny, lived under shaky ground, and fleeting sleep haunted by spectres of silent wrath. Each calculated act resonated through the Spartan dominion, ensuring that power dynamics remained firmly grasped within the iron mesh of Spartan control. These rites of survival, punctuated by sanctioned terror, fed into a greater legacy of warfare that Sparta passed down through generations. The strategy of collecting secrets and spreading fear laid down frameworks that would echo forward in history, colouring the brushstrokes of modern espionage tactics. As the quiet architects of vigilance, these Spartan shadow warriors demonstrated that physical battles were often preceded by those won through cunning and psychological manipulation. In the annals of Spartan lore, the Crypteia's black cloak served as their shroud, physical attire echoing their purpose, cloak and cut merged in symbol and substance. Concealed by its layers,
They became the very embodiment of sinister stealth, a moving badge of their spectral authority, even as the cloak shielded them from the elements and their identities. This garment could command both fear and respect, a nod to their superior secrecy and power threading through the Spartan ethos.
Every mission was a knife's edge of vulnerability and valour. As they deployed under the cover of night, these crimson shadows tread a fine line, aware their stealth could transform instantly from shield to shackle. Yet these uncertainties only propagated their resolve, tempering youthful bravado into seasoned warrior mentality, clashing against potential threats, learning from each breath amidst peril. They embodied a grim reality, both hunter and hunted, cautious navigation amidst darkness as their ever-present consort. Balancing personal execution with state-sanctioned duty, the Cryptire became a unique facet of Spartan governance, walking their tightrope of autonomy, with duty as their resting pole. Their loyalty blazed with intensity, a testament to not just individual prowess, but a broader Spartan commitment to the state's unwavering principles. As Twilight yielded reluctantly today, Cryptire members transitioned back into the solid light of broader Spartan society. Their return was a rebirth, transformed into leaders and warriors, each accolade marking progression from unseen phantoms to substantial figures of Spartan resilience. Shadowed service moulded their prowess, not merely into warriors but into architects of stability, each carrying a legacy of silent mastery, aligning the unseen with the seen, carving the Spartan narrative as firmly with silence as with sword. In the heart of Sparta, the Syssitia, those common dining halls, stood as more than mere structures. They were powerful symbols of equality and camaraderie. In these messes, Spartan men gathered not just to eat, but to reinforce the warrior code that bound them. Unlike the typical dining experiences of the time, where family gatherings offered separate, intimate moments, Spartan soldiers dined with their comrades, removing personal hierarchies and reinforcing their primary allegiance to the state and army. A single shared purpose threaded through these meals, a purpose tasted as much in the bitter salt of the infamous black broth as in the company of fellow warriors. This Spartan staple, black broth, was as stark as the discipline it taught. A concoction of blood and vinegar, it bore the taste of austerity, banning even the thought of culinary excess. Such simple meals, sometimes picked apart with a crust of bread or olives, served as enduring lessons in living without luxury, underpinning the Spartan belief that comfort bred weakness. The air in the Syssitia pulsed with more than the simplicity of a meal. It sang of tales exchanged, of whispered strategies that bonded the Spartan phalanx before they even stepped onto the battlefield. Beyond the sparse menu, the structure of these communal meals emphasised egalitarianism. In stark contrast to lavish banquets in other Greek city-states, where wealth often dictated status and influence, the Spartan table levelled all. Here there were no distinctions of class. Each man, whether noble or of humble birth, brought his share, whether it be coin, harvest, or catch from the hunt. This expectation reinforced a society where one's personal bounty meant little without contribution to the whole. To fail in this duty was not only a logistical lapse, but a social disgrace, potentially leading to exile from the communal table and the bonds it forged. As decanter and stories made their rounds, the Syssitia served as more than nourishment. It became a crucible for loyalty and unity. Stories woven by the firelight carried lessons from battles past, tales of cunning and courage that seasoned young warriors' ears as salt did their meals. Here, amidst camaraderie, a Spartan learned the art of frugality amidst feast and famine, a skill vital when prolonged campaigns pushed the limits of endurance. The meals at the Syssitia trained the body to embrace scarcity, while the tales nourished the spirit, grounding the Spartan soldier in mental readiness for the hardships of war. Though rich in communal ties, the Syssitia also held the power of exclusion. Absence from this centre of Spartan life bore heavy consequences. A missed meal sent ripples through the social fabric, carrying implications of dishonour and detachment from the collective cause. This stringent expectation ensured that Spartan warriors remained tethered to their military duties above all. Even in an age of legacies and lineage, absence from the communal table was a stain, a breach of the very brotherhood that Spartan society demanded to uphold its martial ethos. Financially, the Syssitia required each participant to maintain their stake through contributions, be it from fields tended or pay earned. This was a manifestation of one's belonging and duty, a quiet yet potent testament to shared sustenance over individual wealth. The Syssitia kept the balance of power unscathed by affluence, ensuring that unity on the field mirrored the unity at the table, binding rich and poor alike in the same oaths and expectations. The legacy of the Syssitia was profound, shaping Spartans beyond the dining halls. It taught discipline, unity, and a brand of equality that prepared them not only for the immediacy of combat, but for a lifetime. This austere yet communal experience emphasised collective achievement over personal gain, cultivating a loyalty that was crucial for the relentless demands of a Spartan life. The values instilled held Spartan warriors together, fortified in shared hardship and a singular purpose to protect their homeland. Ancient texts from the likes of Plutarch and Xenophon record the stark contrast between Spartan simplicity and the indulgences favoured by Athens or Corinth. Chroniclers from ages past found the Spartan approach both admirable and fearsome in its Spartan devotion to discipline. These communal gatherings with their frugal meals were more than a curiosity. They were a ritual that underscored the unyielding unity Spartans showed in battle, making the Syssitia a subject of fascination and respect across the Greek world. Even today, echoes of the Syssitia offer lessons in community and resilience. Modern organisations striving for cohesiveness and teamwork might find inspiration in this ancient practice that prioritised group success over individual triumphs. In today's world, where individualism is often king, the communal ethos of the Syssitia serves as a reminder of the strength found in collective responsibility and the power of enduring bonds. Yet, amidst romanticised tales of Spartan rigour, it is vital to discern fact from myth. While the Syssitia became an institution that fostered a singular social fabric, its rigid nature also posed questions about personal freedom and conformity. Such critiques point to a tension between individual expression and collective identity, a tension that remains relevant in reflections on how societies balance discipline with personal liberty. In unravelling these threads, the legacy of the Syssitia continues to influence, a testament to both its enduring allure and the complex weave of history. When darkness crept up, blanketing the rugged landscape of Laconia, young Spartan recruits emerged, ready to embrace the mysteries of the night. The agoge curriculum extended beyond the daylight hours, instructing them under the stars in the art of stealth and surprise warfare. The hush of twilight was not just a time of rest, but a realm where young Spartans honed their skills, bonding with shadows as allies. The night's embrace taught them to navigate fear with eyes wide open, transforming into warriors for whom darkness was as familiar a battlefield as any sunlit arena. Their nocturnal escapades unfolded with a whisper and scattered by moonlight, forging the bedrock of Spartan expertise in night combat. In small groups they ventured beyond their barracks, seamlessly blending with the rugged terrain. Under the discerning eyes of their mentors, they mastered the art of silent movement, communicating through subtle gestures and learning to govern their instincts to remain unseen. For these youngsters, the Spartan hills weren't just landscape. They were a second, shadowy home, integral to their transformation into warriors skilled at wielding surprise and secrecy as effectively as any blade. Targets of choice were often the isolated farms scattered throughout the landscape. More than random pranks, these raids were precise exercises that demanded a fine balance of coordination and mental acumen. The mission was simple: infiltrate, gather provisions, and retreat unnoticed. Yet the simplicity masked the complexity within. One misstep on a stray twig or the clink of a hidden tool could spell failure. The fruits of success: sun-warmed grapes, olives plucked fresh from branches, or a haunch of raw goat meat, were cherished not just as sustenance, but as tokens of victory over both landscape and self. These farm raids went beyond petty theft, instead simulating the reconnaissance required in enemy territory. Boys were taught to strategize, like the foes they would one day encounter, knowing when to strike, when to hold back, and which routes offered the best cover. Each exercise reinforced the necessity of patience, strategic planning, and turning opportunities into successes. As the young Spartans evolved, they became adept at assessing risks quickly, a skill of immeasurable value on the unpredictable battlefield. The nighttime landscape offered them an invaluable lesson. Successful warriors adapt swiftly and embrace clever acquisition over brute force. Navigating in silence became an art form, resembling a coordinated dance where each recruit played a part in a larger, finely tuned choreography. They became familiar with cues such as a tap of a foot for advancement or a quick click of the tongue to halt, subtle signals that dictated the pace of their operations. This intricate dance of shadows required not just individual bravery, but also a keen ability to function as a seamless, unified group, much like a pack of silent predators stalking their prey. These nighttime excursions were more than just martial exercises. They were crucibles that bonded the Spartans into a brotherhood. Each shared experience turned into a story, sewn into the fabric of Spartan culture, retold under the same starry sky that bore witness to their exploits. This cemented an unspoken understanding and camaraderie among the men, one that carried over into the heat of actual battles. The trust formed in the darkness was visceral, affirming the pledge that each Spartan was part of a formidable collective, steel forged in the shadows. Facing the unknown in the overwhelming darkness tested the Spartans in profound ways. Darkness carried threats unseen, from wild animals lurking in the underbrush to the rustle of an enemy nearby. It demanded a deeper courage, more profound than even the brightest daylight required. Night raids weren't just tests of physical mettle, but exercises in taming the fear of the unseen, transforming apprehension into an ally. Through these experiences, Spartans learned the crucial lesson that the shadows could harbour either danger or protection, dictated solely by their mastery over the inherent instinct to flee from danger or embrace the resilience forged within. The essence of Spartan raids lay in the execution of tactical ingenuity. It wasn't about brute theft, but the mental strategies they wove around each scenario. Spartans excelled in unconventional methods, manipulating boundaries, using animals as distractions, or fashioning tools on the go to reach inaccessible fruit. This nurtured agility of the mind, crucial for quick strategic thinking and adaptability. Each exercise in resourcefulness was a reflection of a truth Spartans knew well. In warfare, the mind can be the fiercest weapon. The value of surprise was revered in Spartan culture as an art form capable of turning tides in battle. By mastering the skill of striking unexpectedly, smaller forces could subdue larger ones, often without a contest. This practice found its roots in countless nocturnal exercises where students were drilled in deception, rumour spreading, and using ambient sounds to mask their movements. Such training made surprise a habitual exercise, culminating in warriors whose mere presence could inspire dread and chaos among enemies. Outsiders often found the Spartan penchant for theft perplexing, even barbaric. Yet for Spartans, this was a tradition born from necessity, a practical skill honed for survival. It was a tribute to their culture's respect for cunning and adaptability, pillars upon which Spartan military prowess rested. To be artful in acquisition wasn't an ethical breach, but a demonstration of intellect, a craft learned under necessity's stern tutelage, baffling to those on the outside, but utterly logical within the harsh realities the Spartans faced. The legacy of these nocturnal raids resonated beyond mere military exercises. It was an initiation into the deeper tapestry of Spartan values and martial prowess. As they matured into hoplites, these recruits carried forward a tradition woven from the fabric of countless generations, a long-standing commitment to skill and resilience. As today's stories cast light on their methods, they reveal the enduring truth that for Spartans the knights spoke not of fear, but of the persistent spirit of ingenuity and endurance. In the sun-drenched streets of ancient Athens, the concept of theft as an educational tool seemed as alien as it was perplexing. The Athenians prided themselves on a rich tapestry of culture, philosophy, and democracy, viewing their city-state as the pinnacle of civilization. They cast a curious eye towards Sparta, whose customs appeared harsh and primitive by comparison, lacking the refined upbringing and governance that marked Athenian life. Conversations buzzed in the vibrant agora, filling the air with a mix of fascination and disdain. Could these grim methods truly contribute to Spartan success, or did they merely highlight an absence of sophistication? These debates often lingered on whether Spartan outcomes justified their peculiar means, especially since Athens had achieved its share of victories without resorting to such extremes. The latter reflected a broader divergence between these Hellenic giants, whose interpretations of virtue and the ideal society contrasted sharply. While Athenians championed eloquence, beauty, and innovation, seeing them as elevating forces to the human spirit, Spartans upheld a minimalist ethos sharpened by survival. As Athens flourished into a hub of philosophical thought, ethical quandaries surrounding Sparta's practices became tantalizing topics of debate. Was it conceivable, they wondered, to forge warriors of great strength and prowess without sacrificing the compassion central to human nature? Athenians cherished mind-nurturing pursuits, leaving them pondering if the theft-trained Spartan warriors were indeed shaped by every loss of potential for broader development. In this cultural milieu stepped Xenophon, an Athenian by birth yet an admirer of Spartan rigour. A student of Socrates, Xenophon documented his awe with Spartan society's discipline and efficiency. Having witnessed the Spartan methods firsthand on military campaigns, Xenophon marvelled at their unity and dedication, beyond mere personal comfort. Yet, he was not blind to the social costs engendered by their stern ways, acknowledging the clash between Spartan militarism and Athenian enrichment through intellectual and cultural endeavours. His writings, while reverent, nod to the idea that Spartan practices bore merit within their specific context, prompting reflections on what a society gains or forfeits when emulating such rigour. Plato, another giant of thought, offered his own nuanced critique. He respected the iron-willed discipline of Spartan training, recognising its potential to craft devoted citizens. To Plato, discipline intertwined with justice, the backbone of an orderly state. Yet he harboured reservations about Spartan severity, fearing it might stifle intellectual pursuits and innate talents. Could a singular focus on martial readiness overshadow the soul's richness, trimming the branches of creativity and wisdom vital for a truly virtuous citizenry? These were the questions Plato's dialogues whispered, acknowledging the virtues of Spartan self-control while critiquing the potential suppression of philosophical richness. To discern Athens' criticisms fully, one must appreciate the sharp contrast in educational values. Athenian schools offered a broad curriculum, rhetoric mingled with arts, music, and thought, aiming to mould citizens into well-rounded participants of civic life. Their gatherings, the symposia, encouraged eloquence and reason in jovial company. Here, the hands of creativity danced freely, unrepressed by the silent obedience that Spartan halls demanded. In Spartan lands, education wrapped itself tightly around survival and discipline. It was sparse where Athens was lush, honing resilience over indulgence, inculcating a resilience Athenians equated to primitive roughness. Theft as pedagogy puzzled them, seeming crude against their ideals of fostering intellectual glow. Nonetheless, this academic difference mirrored the broader chasm in societal priorities, survival against cultural achievement, and forced Athenians to ponder whether gaining warriors justified losing the depth of the soul. Curious ironies tinge Spartan practices, turning theft, a vice, into public virtue. For Greeks beyond Sparta, including the Athenians, encouraging young boys to steal flipped moral logic on its head. Could theft, inherently dishonourable, stand as a foundation stone for character and duty? Spartans thought so. They viewed it as critical training for cunning warriors in a rugged world. To be caught was the true failing, for theft honed strategies vital to survival. Understanding how theft entwined itself into Spartan education demands a look through contextual lenses. Enveloped by enemies and reliant on subjugated helots, Sparta's war footing shaped its ethos, valuing strength over personal freedoms. Theft's place in the curriculum was not aberration but necessity born of geopolitical pressure. It symbolised survival strategy beyond mere moral constructs, evoking reflections in Athens and beyond about how societies find balance between survival imperatives and ethical integrity. To wider Greece, Spartan theft painted the boys with echoes of moonlit shadows, inspiring both fear and respect. These tales transcended Spartan borders, playing upon rivalries and alliances, where the Peloponnesian League might admire Spartan ferocity, while Athens and others found ground for moral high ground, galvanising sentiment against Spartan discipline. The narrative was a battlefield itself, shimmering with varied interpretations. In the ancient world's grand dialogues, Spartan theft invited intense debates. Philosophers tested the balances of ethics and pragmatism, querying if virtues could ever stand unfettered. Sparta swapped conventional morals for survival, reframing values for state sustenance. This invited broader reflections on the cost and integrity of means versus ends, lighting sparks that continue to glow in humanity's discourse on governance, nature, and societal resilience. As vibrant as it was confounding, the legacy of Spartan theft lingers long after its immediate critics voice their scorn. It weaves itself into mythology alongside the tales of prowess, urging both admiration and caution. Through this layered legacy, Spartan society captures the incessant human dance between ethical questions of ownership, morality, and civilization's complex embrace. For the Spartans, the real danger lay not so much in foreign invaders as in the creeping embrace of comfort. A Spartan's life, right from the moment of birth, was ruled by the conviction that true strength sprang from enduring hardship. Comfort was seen as a slow poison, one that dulled the razor-sharp edge of Spartan discipline. In their world, a life without struggle was a barren life, a life without growth or grit. Softness equaled vulnerability, which was the antithesis of everything they stood for. Bountiful food and feather-soft beds were more than mere indulgences. They were gateways to decay, threatening to unpick the very seams of Spartan society. The rigorous education system, the agoge, truly embraced these ideals. It was an arena where hardship was the mentor and endurance the curriculum. Deprivation wasn't just tolerated, it was celebrated, a vital tool used to sculpt the Spartan warrior's spirit. Hunger itself was wielded like a craftsman's chisel, carving away any trace of weakness to expose the iron core underneath. It didn't just test endurance, it became an instructor, imparting patience and resilience, whispering lessons about scarcity and survival as vital as the sharpest spear. In a world where battles didn't pause for provisions, learning to live with less made a Spartan warrior anything but lesser. Hunger was a forge, sharpening both mind and body, teaching pragmatism through necessity. It trained these warriors to conserve energy and move quietly, and when to strike decisively. Deprivation, far from being a pitiable state, was a badge of the Spartans' self-control, etching mental fortitude into their very bones. To fight off hunger was to announce oneself as a being of resilience, a testament to their indomitable spirit, far more than merely filling a void in the belly. Silence and stealth were the quiet allies in this masterful dance of survival. Through their youthful lessons in thievery, Spartan boys learned to move like shadows, silent and precise, translating these skills into the chaos of battle where noise could spell death. Their stealth became as much a cultural hallmark as an essential skill. Silence was not just the absence of sound, but a presence, a discipline, a testament to self-control. Such became part of their heritage, skills nurtured in the thieving dark, and stark silence of the barracks that would serve them well in both the cacophony of war and the tension of espionage. The act of stealing food, paradoxically, taught not just aggression but restraint. It required boldness, yes, but also the calm calculation of when to act. This duality was mirrored in their combat, where simple rage had to be tempered with strategic foresight. The Spartans weren't mere fighters. They were tacticians steeled by deprivation to control their instincts, a delicate balance between tight, bracing tension and explosive energy. This mastery over one's impulses became the foundation for their battlefield discipline, a metaphorical taut bowstring, ready to unleash only when needed. Punishment in Sparta was as instructive as it was painful. It was woven into the education tapestry, a method for purging weakness and instilling discipline through suffering. Public floggings taught resilience, embedding physical endurance and mental toughness into each young Spartan. It was a poignant reminder that mistakes bore tangible costs, teaching lessons never to be repeated. These shared experiences of punishment bound them together, fostering a brotherhood of warriors, unified not just by code, but by the memories of welts and scars endured and overcome. Hunger, however, was never just a solitary trial. It was a communal experience binding warriors together. In the face of shared deprivation, camaraderie bloomed. The collective effort of stealing entwined their destinies, fostering interdependence and trust. Through shared trials, bonds formed not in comfort, but in surviving the unyielding Spartan regimen. This unity and reliability on each other became a rallying cry, a reminder that their strength was built upon shared hardship, a legacy of collective endurance forged in the crucible of scarcity. Spartan leaders thus emerged not from privilege, but from the crucible of shared struggle. They were expected to model resilience and resourcefulness, leading not from above, but alongside their comrades. Each lesson from their youth, every hunger pang, was a lesson in leadership, a call to embody the disciplined cunning that Sparta revered. It was this authenticity, this lived experience that linked them innately to the warriors they led, providing guidance rooted in a shared history of hunger and struggle. The Spartan philosophy of enough embraced a minimalist lifestyle that paradoxically enriched them. For Spartans, having merely what was essential was a proud choice. Living efficiently, unburdened by excess. This ingrained sense of minimalism underscored their existence, emphasizing integrity over indulgence. Other Greek states might indulge in opulence, but Sparta found strength in simplicity, a devotion to discipline that empowered their martial focus. These ideals extended beyond mere preparation for battle. They instilled a profound adaptability in all areas of life, a resilience transcending the battlefield of swords to those of leadership, diplomacy and governance. By mastering scarcity, Spartans became adept problem solvers, able to navigate diverse challenges with grace and authority. Even as their society has faded into history, the lessons of Spartan hunger remain etched into Greek memory and beyond. Their disciplined deprivation offered a stark, respected model of fortitude, a story that fascinated and inspired others, a blueprint for unimaginable resilience. For the Spartans, hunger wasn't just an absence of food, it was a defining presence, a testament to their unyielding spirit, an emblem of their steadfast commitment that resonates even today. As we draw this tale to a close, remember that every story has its lessons. If you've enjoyed diving into this world lost to time, please like and subscribe for more explorations into the captivating grips of history.